Hey everyone, did you hear that? Wow, that was Ash Wilson. That was Broken Machine, the track Broken Machine from the album Broken Machine. I thought it's sort of a rocky, funky, maybe a bit of Jamiroquai in there. Great big guitar sounds. Wow, I thought it sounded a bit like a James Bond sort of theme in a way. And Ash is with us now. Ash, tell us a bit about that track.
Broken Machine. Yeah, I mean, I'm a bit of a Jamiroquai is a good pull actually because it's massive, especially of their early stuff.
Yeah,
and Lenny Kravitz as well.
Yeah, no,
there's a bit of a big Craig Ross fan, and that again, I mean, the whole thing came from the three of us just trying to find something in that room at the studio. And that came up with a ba-bum bum ba-bum bum ba-bum bum 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 ba-bum that and then we just kind of extrapolated everything we could out of it over the course of a few hours. It was one of those numbers that came very easily, which I think often the best songs do, really.
Yeah.
If you agonize over something, I think you can overdo it a bit, not always, but you can overdo it sometimes. And so that song is one of those that came around very quickly. And the guitar sounds, I mean, I only own one piece of equipment now that I used on that record. But I think we had either a 2 or 3 amp setup all the time. There was definitely a Fender Quad Reverb, an old 70s Silverface thing.
That's great modern big heavy things, you mean?
Oh yeah. I mean, it was horrific. I think, well, it was a 4x12 combo, so it had a Fender Twin chassis, but with 4 12-inch speakers in it, 2 of which were EVMs. So it was a very, very heavy. You're probably talking near on 80 kilograms. I think that thing was. It was ridiculous. Which is why I ended up. Yeah, I ended up I bought it off Scott McKeon, and
we blame him then.
Yeah, I blamed Scott, and then I mean, eventually he sort of got in touch and was like, "Do you still use that? I wouldn't mind it back." So I sold it back to him after about 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Yeah,
but it was a great rig. So I used to use that in conjunction with a JMP 50 Marshall combo 212. So I got these two amps that were sort of made within a year of each other. Actually, I think the Marshall was a 76 and the Fender was a 74, I think, or 75. So I was very much into the vintage amps and old looking guitars. I had a really nice Gibson R8 58 reissue that I used all over that record, and my old Strat that I've since had refinished and different pickups put in it and everything else. So it doesn't even look like the guitar it was, let alone sound like it for the record. But I think
you've got a Paul Reed Smith on the front cover, I believe, or I've seen you with one anyway. Is that another one that you use a lot?
I'm very much wrapped up in the PRS thing at the moment. It all started off, I was on tour with Sari Shaw, who's an incredible singer. If you've not come across her, from America. She's really, really, really great songwriter. A lot of fun to play with. I'm very lucky to have that gig. On tour with her, I tried, I don't know, 5 Silver Sky. So the John Mayer edition that they make, which is basically a Strat.
Yeah.
Really. And I was very much on the what the heck is this? What the hell are they doing? It's a Strat with a dodgy headstock was my whole opinion on it. But and I was using Duesenberg guitars at the time, which are very aesthetic looking, very beautiful looking guitars. They got a bit of a Gretsch Art Deco thing going on with them. But trem system, as good as it is, it was. I was fine. Well, we recorded 10 live dates across a Switzerland tour. And I was finding that I was having to, my guitar wouldn't lose tuning through songs, but I was tuning up between every song because I just couldn't help myself but use the wang bar. Just couldn't help it. It was such a satisfying thing to wobble around on. So I wanted a hardtail And I wanted something I could fly with. So I wanted a bolt-on, because we were doing tons of gigs where we would fly in for maybe 2 shows and then fly back again. And the guitars would always end up in the cargo hold. So I was like, I'm going to buy myself a Telecaster for this. And I tried these Silver Skies out of morbid curiosity, wanting to poo-poo them, you know, from here to the end of anyway, I tried one and it was great. And I was like, oh, it's a bit like bloody well, pretty good guitar that is, you know. But I'm very much a Strat guy, and I've tried tons over the years and found 2 that I really like. And then I went to another shop and they had another one, and that one was really good. And then a couple of days later, we found ourselves being boring musicians on tour. What do you do on your day off? You go to a music shop.
Of course.
We went to another one. And of course, they got one. So I tried that one. And I'm like, well, that's 3 for 3. So I have a word with a friend of mine who knows the guys at PRS Europe. And I'm like, I'm really interested in buying one of these guitars, because I think as a guitar, like a flight guitar, it's perfect. You know, I'm insured. So if the unthinkable happened, I could get another one on my insurance, and it would be, you know, 9/10 of what the other one was, rather than finding some Excalibur instrument that, you know, you're probably going to take 50 guitars to find again. The one thing I do know about PRS is that their guitars are insanely consistent. So I you know, I went to PRS HQ and tried. No, I didn't actually. No, I just got it. I got it directly from them. I didn't try it, because by then I'd tried 8, and they'd only got 2 colors in stock. So I was like, oh, send me the white one. So they sent me the white one, and the first gig I did on that guitar was in a place called Svalbard, which is north of Norway. It's the highest, most northern civilized part of the earth. It was a 26-hour
near the
journey.
North Pole sort of thing, is it?
Yeah.
God,
and
now that's cool.
It was very cool. What was cool about the guitar? So this is its first go out.
Yeah.
And I always detune my guitars a tone, so like a whole note when I fly it. So because when they go up, as you know, the pressure affects the tension on the strings and everything else. So detune the guitar, but so it would be in tune, but in D instead of E. Mm-hmm. Now we left the UK, and I think it was October, so let's say probably about 10 degrees, 12 degrees. Svalbard was -15, and this guitar had been in 4 different cargo holds. So it was 4 flights to get to this place over, I don't know, 15 hours or something ridiculous. I get to my hotel room, and it's in a mono bag, right? So it's not in a hard case. It's in a mono Vertigo or something it's called.
Jeez.
I get to my hotel room, and admittedly, the guitar is wet through with condensation, but it's still perfectly in tune, a tone down.
No way! That is incredible, isn't it?
And all of a sudden, I was like, "There's a bit of engineering going on here."
There is.
I'm not, you know, that. So all of a sudden, I became very, very interested in what else they did, because it sounded great live, and I was very lucky that there was loads of guitar players at this festival. So I met an incredible guitar player called Buddy Whittington from America.
Yeah.
And we went to a jam session together, and he didn't bring a guitar, and because he was like, "Oh, I'm not going to get up," so he left his guitar in his hotel room. So they were like, "Oh, come on, buddy, come and get up," and I was like, "Dude, like, I'd love to hear what that sounds like with you playing it." She's like, "Oh, great, yeah." So he got up and used the Silver Sky on a couple of numbers with someone, and it just sounded amazing. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna do some research, because I'd not been happy with my Les Paul for a while, and I changed everything. I'd put these real fancy pickups in it. I'd put this insane, I'd like from Nashville, all of this bonkers electric set, all these really, you know, historically period. I mean, I'd gone to town on this guitar. But it still wasn't, you know, I'm searching for this unicorn. And the PRS do something called a 594, which is like their version of a reissue Les Paul. So I went to the PRS place, and I tried a bunch, and same experience. they all felt pretty great. One I did prefer over the rest, which was the gold one. Thank goodness, because that was what color my daughter wanted me to get.
That's my luck.
Yeah. So I bought that, and that thing is just the best Les Paul type guitar I've ever played. It's incredible. It's inspiring. It's not too heavy. It sounds to my ears what I expect a guitar like that to sound like. So it's kind of interesting. I used to be everything had to look old and be beaten up, and old amps, and the amps that I use are built by a guy in Northampton called Cliff Brown. He's got a company called 633 Engineering, and he sort of designs and builds bespoke amplification to order. So
the Groove King amps, aren't they, that you're talking about?
Pretty much. Yeah, man. He does the Groove King, he does the Drive King. He does a few
UK
different
amps.
What's great about it? Well, that was kind of the thing. So I was sick of my vintage stuff breaking, and I wanted something modern but that was made with the kind of build quality and the kind of attention to detail that stuff was made in the 60s. And those kind of sensibilities, like I wanted something that was point to point wide. So if I had any problems, it was easy to fix. I wouldn't have to be buying printed circuit boards and everything else. So, because that was the thing when the Fender went wrong, it was easy because the Fender was point to point. But when the Marshall went wrong, even though it was a 1976, it was on, it wasn't point to point anymore. So it was a little bit more complicated to repair because of the Turek board style thing that they used. So I also didn't want spring reverb because, every now and again I'm on a flappy stage and I like a bit of reverb in an amp. It would splash around. So, but, all the companies I was looking at were American. You've got like Jackson Amp Works, divided by 13, I think I want. Yeah, obviously 2 Rock. And they're all upwards of 4,000 or 5,000 quid. And if there's a problem, I didn't want to go to a local amp tech. I have this kind of thing where like I want to be the lowest common denominator. So if there's a problem with my rig, I want it to be me, not the equipment. So I can't blame anything else. You know what I mean? So I kind of have this OCD thing of like, oh gosh, I look at, if the amp goes wrong, I can't send it back to the States. I want something British, but I want something, I don't know, and I was kind of like talking out loud to Roger, believe it or not, because Roger lives near Cliff, and he says, well, it's a friend of mine built. That's right, yeah. So he introduced me to Cliff, and that was just one of the absolute best things that's ever happened to my guitar playing, was meeting him and being able to articulate the sound I want, and him able to be able to make it. And
you might have these fantastic guitars, but without a decent amp, they're not gonna.
Oh gosh, and no, they're not. And to be honest with you, I'd take a great amp and a mediocre guitar any day over a great guitar.
Now we're gonna play a track now. It's very different because it's an acoustic track. This is called "Holding Hands," and we'll talk a bit about that guitar in a second. So let's listen to this, "Holding Hands."